Hey everybody, it's Mr. Fred, and in this video we're going to be going over castling. It's going to be the first in a three-part series about the unusual moves of chess. So these are the moves some of you may not be completely familiar and comfortable with, and I just want to clear that up. Alright? So the first thing is castling is the only move in chess where you move two pieces at the same time. The king moves two spaces, and the rook comes to the other side. Here's what it looks like if you were to castle queenside. King moves two spaces, rook moves to the other side. This is called castling kingside or castling short. This is called castling queenside, castling long. And it works the same way for black. So here's black castling queenside or castling long. And here's black castling kingside, castling short. All right, now what are the rules of castling? Well, for one thing, your king can't have already moved. Let's say earlier in the game, I had gotten checked. And then I decided, you know what, I still want a castle, so let me come back to e1. And then after black castles, I can castle too. Illegal move. Once your king moves, you can no longer castle. So now this king had already come to e2 and back, so it's forfeited the right to castle. Same thing goes for rooks. If your rook is moved, let's say the rook comes to f1 at some point, and then let's say it comes back to h1 because it's like, oh, you know what, I should have just castled. Let's say black castles. Can white castle? Nope, because this rook has already moved, so it would be illegal to castle kingside. See, notice I try to do it and the computer won't let me. I can still castle queenside though, because the king hasn't moved and the a rook hasn't moved. See that? Okay, what else do you need to know about castling? You cannot castle out of check. Let's just set up a little situation here. So let's say black checks the white king. White would love to just get out of check because you'd be bringing your king to safety, right, behind these three pawns and outside of the center, and you'd be getting your rook into the game. Can I do it? Nope. The reason why is you can't castle out of check. So the king is in check. So first you would have to block, and if you ran away, would you be able to castle later? No. Once your king moves, you lose the right to castle. Okay, let's look at a different situation. Next question. Can black castle? King hasn't moved and rook hasn't moved. Nope. The reason why is if white were to castle kingside right here, they'd be castling into check because of this dark squared bishop hitting the g1 square. So you can't castle out of check, you can't castle into check. And then finally, let's set up a new situation. You can't castle through check. So can this king castle? Nope. It won't even let me drag it this time. The king can't castle through check because look, this bishop is hitting this f8 square and the king has to pass through it. So that would be illegal as well. So you can't castle out of check, you can't castle into check, and you can't castle through check. Okay? What else? Your pieces need to be out of the way. There can't be any pieces in between the king and the rook. And the king can't have moved, and the rook can't have moved. Right? And you always move the king two spaces, and the rook goes on the other side. Right? That applies for queenside castling. So let's look at queenside castling again. So right, if we go kingside, it's two spaces and the rook on the other side. If we go queenside, king moves two spaces, rook goes on the other side. It's a little different because in queenside the rook's going three spaces, right? But the king always moves two. That's why you remember that part of the rule. King moves two, rook on the other side. Oops, we got it. See that? All right, and last thing I'll say is Castling is often a great idea because you're getting your king out of the center, right, which tends to open up, and then your king will be in danger. So you're putting him on the side of the board where things are not as intense. And you're putting him behind a row of bodyguards, and you're getting your rook into the game. A lot of times, kids try to develop their rook this way. This is usually not the best way to develop your rook. Usually the best way is to castle. And then on your next moves, you can get your rooks right into the center where they're going to be the most powerful, right? All right, so that's castling.